basically what I want to do is, I guess I should use this for the recording. My name's Dom. I'm the music director here at FPCE. The way I want to structure this is I'm just going to tell you about my life. I'm going to tell you about how I came to be a church musician, what I do here at this church, and basically just field your questions. See if you have anything that you want to talk about. And, feel free to stop me in the middle. If you hear something that pops out and you're like, well, I want to know more about that, you can just, ask me about it. I'll tell you about it. If you have something you want to save to the end, you can do that as well. It's very loose. This is how I structure my life, and it seems to work for me. So, okay. So I started playing piano at age 4 with my grandmother. She was a church organist and fantastic musician, just somebody with like the most beautiful musical insight. And she really instilled for me from a very, very early age, the sort of like the joy of music. She never, ever lost that spark to the very end. She died in 2020, I think 2019, actually. From cancer. And in the last 2 weeks of her life, up to the last 2 weeks of her life, she was playing organ at her local church. So she just loved playing. So that was from age 4. I was playing piano. Both of my parents were musicians. Their entire families were musicians. My siblings were. Everybody played piano. They played an instrument. There was always music going on at home. My mom was an oboist. My dad was a trombonist, or they are, and they still play, but just not professionally. My parents had a band, so I grew up hearing my parents' band, playing in the basement. They didn't really play out very much. They mostly only played in like block parties and stuff. The band was called The Void because they would just disappear into the basement for hours playing music. There was a drum kit at home. There was a B3 Hammond organ. So I was always bouncing around, as a curious little kid, playing around on the drums and picking up the bass and playing that. Somewhere in the middle of my elementary school days, my dad took over from my grandmother at her church job, her Catholic church job, as the choir director there. So like I always remember on Wednesdays, I would go and I would help Dad organize the music. Like we would, file the music together, and it was really fun because I could go and play the organ or play the piano. It was a really nice Steinway. And I just remember him burning the midnight oil at the church, like 7 to 9 on Wednesdays, because he had a day job, which was his main job, but he always wanted to keep the church job. Just because he liked doing it. I don't think he really needed it, but I think he needed it. You know what I mean? He was always a passionate musician. I think he really wanted to pursue music, but he had to provide for his family, so that's a thing. And then somewhere around middle school, I started teaching myself guitar because it was more popular than the piano. And so I quit my piano lessons, joined a band, as one does. Don't worry, it gets better. I come back to it later. I played guitar, keys, and bass, and sang in the band. I started writing music, writing songs, and then I got into high school, and then the band got mildly successful for a local band. We played in the Battle of the Bands a bunch. We played in our our town, I don't know, festivals and stuff. We had a pretty big following, and I really, really loved doing that. But somewhere at the end of high school, I started to miss playing the piano. Not that I had ever really stopped, but I missed doing it seriously and what that felt like to prepare a piece and to really engage. And so I rediscovered Bach. I discovered my love for Beethoven. I got into Brahms, the three Bs. But the thing that really caught me, there was this composer named William Byrd. Have you ever heard of him? Yeah, William Byrd was a Renaissance composer, and he wrote some of the most gorgeous a cappella music. And my dad got me into William Byrd, and we would sing at home. We would sing through his masses, and then I started getting my friends into singing it, and we were just a bunch of nerds, basically. And at the end, after high school, I was like, okay, I have to get more serious about this. I took a year off before going back to college and started taking piano lessons again. And I basically re-taught myself how to sight read, and by just playing Bach on the piano every single day, training myself. And then after about a year of that, I studied at a community college for 3 years. And I just studied every single instrument I possibly could get my hands on there. Because community colleges are cheap, you can you can experiment with whatever you want. So I studied classical and jazz piano, I studied jazz guitar, classical upright bass, classical and jazz voice, I sang in choirs, I played bassoon, I played in ensembles, I took music theory, just every possible thing that I could do for 3 years. I was overtime, which teed me up really nice for going into Roosevelt University, which is where I studied music composition. And all this while, all the while, my dad had, while this was happening, he had lost his job at one church and remarried and started going to another church where they were doing the old Latin Mass, which meant that they would sing William Byrd and sing Palestrina and all of these really great Renaissance composers. So I started singing in his, just volunteering in his choir as a baritone section leader. If you can't tell, I'm a baritone. And then, so went to Roosevelt for composition. And then I began my first official post as a music director at a UCC when I was a freshman in college. And the job requirements were such that I needed to have a bachelor's degree at least, and I didn't have that. But I talked them into letting me work there. I didn't know how to play organ at the time. I had experimented and messed around with it, and I played B3 Hammond a little bit, which is a totally different thing. But they were very forgiving, and I think they saw that I was passionate about music, and specifically passionate about sacred music. And they took me in and they said, you can learn organ on the job. As long as you can play hymns, that's good, and we'll pay for your organ lessons and stuff. So I took organ lessons with a couple of different organists in Chicago. This is all in Chicago, by the way. I'm from Chicago. And I kind of inherited a very small choir at that church, and they were all volunteers. One of them was the pastor of the church. He was the tenor, and I did not have a bass, so I sang bass while playing piano and playing organ. And I think I had 2 sopranos and 1 alto, and that was the choir. It was 3 people plus me. And so and it was always this initiative of like, get more people, how do we do it? I just started asking my friends. I was just like, hey, I need a bass, I need another alto, I started asking my family to come in and sing, and they would come and sing. And I was able to grow the choir a little bit. But the truth and sad fact of this church was that it was going under before I ever came in. It was a nice, big, beautiful sanctuary that on a good day maybe had 10 people on a very good day. And that number just got less and less because the congregation started dying. There were not new families coming in. And I think one of the things that maybe stopped that congregation from growing was that church was located, when it first was built, it was located in a German neighborhood. It was a German Lutheran church. Then over the years, the neighborhood started to change. It became Irish, and then they eventually had to adapt to that. They became, I don't remember what denomination they shifted into at that point, and then the neighborhood changed again. They became a UCC. The neighborhood changed again, but so then it became a predominantly Latino or Latinx neighborhood that did not, basically the UCC couldn't cater to them. They tried. They tried really, really hard, but the fact of the matter is that everybody in that congregation and the people that ran that church were so set in their ways of hearing the hymns they wanted to hear that, the few families that would come and check it out would be like, this isn't my language. These are not my traditions. This is not what I connect with. They're not speaking to me. They're speaking to themselves. It became an echo chamber. So that church folded, sad to say, and I went to another church, a Presbyterian church in Clarendon Hills. I don't know if you're familiar with Clarendon Hills. It's outside of Chicago. And it was my first time working with some professional singers and a large choir, where I actually got to just stand in front of a podium and conduct. And I had an organist and everything, and it was a big, beautiful church, full congregation. It was a really, really great church, and big enough to do 2 services, both traditional services. And so I got really, really deep into traditional worship music. And all the while this is happening, I'm going off script here, but it's kind of roughly the same. All the while, I'm playing in bands. I'm playing in rock bands. I had a metal band. I was lead singer for another rock band. I had an experimental jazz group. I was doing everything, just trying to do as much music as I could get my hands on. But those 2 worlds remain separate for me the whole time. I've got my church music life, and I've got my rock bands and my classical music, and they're never the tween shall meet. And then I met a girl who was on her way to New York, and I'm like, if I don't move now, I probably never will, because I was really starting to get, grounded there. And so I picked up my entire life, moved here. I live in Washington Heights now. And I had to rebuild my entire music community from scratch. I had to start over. Started playing a lot more musical theater, which is not something I did very much of in Chicago. There is a musical scene, but it's pretty small there. And so I started playing more music theater. I started subbing in churches in the area. One of those churches was this one, for the previous organist here, David McFarland. And he told me, he said, you know, in a few years I'm going to be retiring and the position might be open for you if you're interested. And I'm like, I definitely would be. I played at an Episcopal church in Chelsea for a while as the interim organist. And then the pandemic happened and everything stopped. And I'm like, I really, really need to lock in whatever it is I'm going to do, because I can't keep doing the subbing thing. I can't keep bouncing around from place to place. I need to settle on something. And a truly divine act of providence happened when, you know, Rich called me in 2021 and said, hey, our organist just left. You've subbed for us before and it's gone well. He recommended you. We'd like to bring you in and, you know, see if it works. And so I went in under the pretense of, I'm going in as the organist. I'm going in to play the organ. I'm going to conduct the choir. I didn't even know there was a band here. I didn't know there was a Crossroads band. And then I found out, like, oh, you guys have a band here. Okay, that's cool. But also, I was like, not my thing. Like, very not my thing. I'm so not into the worship music thing. Like, I was like, very, I wouldn't say against it. It just like, I felt like, oh, I don't know anything about that. Like, so it's just out of mind for me, you know? And then Rich had said, you know, I think he was sort of like brain ninja-ing me, you know, where he's like, why don't you come and like check it out and like help me get the sound right, because I know you've worked on sound stuff before. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll check that out. And I came in, and I'm like, hey, this band is pretty good. Like, and this, I think the only remaining member from that original band is Lindsay. Lindsay, if you didn't see the band yesterday, he is a volunteer who's, I think he's in his 80s. 88. He's 88. He is he's a volunteer, and he's a member here. He's been a member here for a long time. Long time. 60s, I think. In the 60s, he became a member here. He's the only one from that original band, but I saw real potential for it. And we were playing here, by the way, on this stage, when I first started here. I saw a real potential for it. It seemed like something I wanted to do, and I told Rich, hey, you know I play guitar too, and I also sing, I play bass, I play keys. If you ever have need for that, just let me know. So I started kind of coming in and playing a little bit every other Sunday, and then more and more I started to get really, really involved with it and started to realize, like, there really isn't that much of a difference between traditional style worship music and contemporary worship music, right? Effectively, they're the same thing, right? If it gets you closer to God, if it gets you closer to feeling what you came in church to feel, and hearing the message that you came to hear, and connecting with your church community in the way that you feel comfortable connecting, then it's all good, you know? so like I really, I kind of dropped the whole pretense of being one way or the other, like that church worship has to be this way because I saw Dad doing the Catholic thing growing up, and having like William Byrd be like the pinnacle of all music is like, oh, it's the best church music really was in the 1600s, and it's like, no, I mean, I think it's a very elitist and self-defeating way of looking at it, and it really stopped me from being able to connect with worship in every possible way, right? And that's not to say that I think that contemporary worship is better than traditional worship, but it is another facet of my life that I had completely shut off from connecting with God in that way. So I think that's the main point of why I wanted to do this talk was to say that there is always a bridge for the gap. There's always a way to get to the other side and hear the perspective of other people. One of the things that drew me to this church is that I saw that both services were the traditional service and the contemporary service were both equally respected. We have paid musicians in both services. We have the band. A lot of them are Broadway musicians, or they're jazz or rock players or pop musicians from the area. And we also have volunteers. Everybody is dedicated. Everybody is, here because they want to be here. The choir, it's a similar situation. We have 5 paid musicians, and then the rest is dedicated volunteers, all people who've been doing it for a very long time. We have a big. We have a candlelight carol service that where we basically bring in a mini orchestra. We sort of save up for that every year to make sure that we go all out because it's a really, really special time for everyone. That time of year and hearing the Christmas carols done in such a way with like such passion and intensity. And then we also sometimes have a worship service, worship. We just started doing like a worship night, which if you're not from a, contemporary background, which I wasn't, I didn't know what it was. It's basically like a rock concert of, the band will do like 12 songs, split up by little readings or little talks. But it's just about the music. It's like showing up for 2 hours and just doing the contemporary music thing. And it's really cool. It's very cool to see. So I think that, that all of these things are possible because not only did Rich have the vision to see, hey, people also want to hear, because it was only a traditional choir here before Rich showed up. And he said, people want to also see contemporary music. There are a lot of people that we could be catering to, that we could be inviting in to our community if we just open up our minds a little bit musically, right? But it wasn't just Rich, it was also the community was open enough to let him see that idea through. And I think that would not have been possible at my UCC job that I started out in. I think they probably would have thought it's a cute idea, but I think that they would not have gone through with it. They wouldn't have had the brass to kind of like take the next step and just make it happen. The more that we kind of open our minds as a church at FPCE the more we see people coming in. I think, yeah, I mean, I think that's my main point. I'm trying to. I want to see if I missed anything. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess in ending, I'll say, like, one of the things that I had closed myself off to, which was contemporary music, right? Was one of the things that I now come here looking forward to every Sunday, coming and playing with the band, and it then invigorates my passion for working with the choir. I do the contemporary service first. It's 9 a.m. and then I go right to the choir right after that, and I feel more energized than I did when I was just coming in to conduct a choir, because it shakes me like out of the whole, like, I have to be this very, very prim and proper person, and I think it comes off well. The choir appreciates that. They see somebody who's engaged in the different styles, and it loosens them up a little bit, and then they feel a little more comfortable. Some of our choir members have even sung in the band. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I think that there is a world in which you can bring in everybody, and everyone can feel at home, no matter what service they go to. Yeah, that's it. I guess I'll open up for questions now if you have any. Sure. What kind of repertoire do we do in our standard service? We do a lot of stuff. Oh, I guess we should use the microphone for the recording. We do a good amount of stuff. So one of the things we do is, I mean, we do the classical, like the classic, like anthems that everybody's familiar with. Like that would be like John Rutter. We've done John Rutter. We've done I don't know. Who are not Marty Haugen? That's more classic, he's Catholic. But we've done the like sort of contemporary traditional stuff. We do Bach. We do because I try to mix it up, because if I had my druthers, we'd be doing William Byrd every Sunday, and people would get really sick of that, I think. But we do Bach, we do Byrd, we do Brahms, the classics, we do the romantic composers, we do early 20th century Leo Sowerby, we do, who are some of those? Finzi, we do Finzi. But we've, I think we try to get as much of the classical traditional repertoire as possible, but I also went to school for composition, so I like some of the more contemporary composers. We've done some Arvo Pärt. We've done some John Taverner. We have done, there's a composer who's a living composer in New York named Ola Yelo, who has very beautiful settings of Latin texts, but also his own texts. It's kind of like Arvo Pärt. It's sort of minimalist and cool. I've also composed my own music. I've also used some of the music budget to actually commission composers in the city. So, I mean, totally brand new works. We do that. We've done gospel music. We've done, like gospel arrangements like Moses Hogan and stuff like that. I think the most the most I've pushed them was we've started doing kind of a blended service on Christmas Eve, which is like, we have family service, which involves both the choir is here, the band is here, the children's chorus is here. There's everybody is, it's like all hands on deck. And they'll do sort of like a lighthearted anthem, but then they'll also sing, they'll sing choral parts for contemporary stuff. Some of them are not into it. Some of them are doing it because they like being here. And I think they're in the minority. And I think it sounds great, and everybody loves when it happens. I maybe went too far. I went way beyond your question.
No, that was what I needed to hear, because music. I'm not sure I need this. Yeah. Okay. Music is music, whatever style it is. And if you can do one, you can do the other. But the question is, I guess, not a question as much, is because you're doing everything, you appeal to everybody. Our church is smaller. We have professional musicians in our church. One is on Broadway now, but others are classically trained. We have opera singers. We've got, this bunch as members. And nobody really likes praise music. But we have some guys who get together and form a praise band. So we've brought that in we have one service on Sunday. So every now and again, they will perform. Everybody loves it because it's different. Do you have people here who go to one service like all the time? Or do you have them switching back and forth for variety to see, how the other half lives?
Well, here's the interesting thing about that. I think there are some people who come here to hear praise music. Mm-hmm. There are some people who come here to do traditional worship. And then there are the majority of people who just need to go to a service at 9 a.m.
Yes.
And people who just need to go to a service at 11, mm-hmm. right? And it doesn't matter. They like the music. Whatever comes out, it comes out. But it's what works for them. Mm-hmm. And it's the same sermon both times. So it's like they know they're not missing. They're not missing a message. They can always go back and watch the service later if they missed the music and they're like, oh, somebody says, oh yeah, I heard the choir had a really cool anthem this Sunday. Oh, I was at the 9 a.m. so I want to go check it out. Is that?
I listen to live stream at 9 at home.
Oh yeah.
And then I come to the 11.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh cool.
All the time. All
yeah.
the time.
This is a very common thing. I mean, I think people will go to the service that best suits their time
schedule,
their schedule, and if the music is good at both, they won't feel like they're really missing out by choosing one service over another. There's always the option where they can go back and listen to it. Did that answer
Yes.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, great. Cool. Yeah. Anybody else?
So I'm just the husband of the pastor, so I don't get involved in all of this stuff. But one of the things I think our folks struggle with is fitting, especially contemporary music, into the message, into the passage, like those sorts of things. Like it's simpler, I think, for hymns because if you look in the hymnal, it's season by season is categorized, it matches up to the passages, all those things. What are there resources that you use, or like how do you figure that out? Are you working with Rich, I assume, to choose those?
So, okay, we have a bit of a unique situation here because Rich is very, very closely connected with the Crossroads Band. It's his baby. He started it. He loves contemporary music. He listens to contemporary music on the radio, contemporary Christian music on the radio. He's always listening for new music, new songs that Elevation is putting out. He's tuned into this stuff. He's very keyed into it, and he will, he'll often tailor a sermon to end with the song that is about to play. Or he might weave themes from the contemporary music into the sermon. He doesn't always, though. I mean, it isn't even the most frequent thing. I mean, what's interesting about the contemporary music is that it's so open. Like, it's so generally vague. Like the message it's necessarily generic. You know what I mean? Like it is so open that you could literally preach on anything and put that song into the slot. You know, that's the great thing about it. And if sometimes Rich will he'll catch an aroma of the song that came before it and be like, yeah, just like that song says, but it's not like the sermon is based around the songs. In the same way that, at my previous Presbyterian church job, I would have to, I would sit with the worship and music committee and plan the anthems. Like, does this anthem work with your sermon? Like, Rich is just like, if people are happy singing, and people are, if people are happy singing, if people like the music and it looks fun to do, I don't care what you do. and so I for that, I'm sure you're aware of the Vanderbilt Lectionary and some of the other resources that exist for traditional music, because it's so much more specific. But I would say for contemporary worship, there's so much less that you have to plan for. And it's more about, for me, it's more about how is the flow of the music? Does it feel do we have a rousing closer? Do we have something that is amped up as a closer? Do we have something that feels welcoming as our first song? Does the second song kind of feel like a natural progression? Does the third song feel kind of contemplative? Because that's usually the third song we usually do. It's either right before the sermon. It's pretty much always right before the sermon. And people are seated for that. And usually we do something that's a little bit more okay, just sit and listen, enjoy the music. It moves around, but that's kind of the general format. It's a set list. It's like going to see a band. What do you want to hear? Do you want to hear hard, fast songs all night? Or do you want to kind of mix it up? Do you want to hear all slow music all the time? No, you want to hear some things where you're energized. You want to hear some stuff where you're listening and relaxed, That's kind of how I think we do most of our planning. But Rich does a lot of it. Rich does a lot of the contemporary worship planning. Yeah. Anyone else? Any questions?
I have a technical question. I noticed yesterday, I was watching you play, and it was driving me crazy because I was watching you play, but the screen was not in the same place. There's a drag. And I'm not sure if anybody else would notice it, but I'm a musician, and sitting there, I was ready to tear my hair out.
Oh, wow. What do you play?
Piano, but mostly I'm a singer.
Oh,
So,
nice. Okay.
but it's just that little delay. And because the screens are so big and they're right there, you can't miss what's happening on the screen.
Right.
So I could look at you playing and still see the screen, and they weren't quite synced.
Yeah.
So then I thought, to save my sanity, I would just look at you.
Yeah, that is a tricky thing. The screens are really the size and proportions and timing of like a megachurch.
Yeah.
Right, and we don't have megachurch size, but it's sort of one of those like, if you build it, they will come sort of thing. Like I think the hope is that like we'll be able to grow the congregation enough to where we'll need a bigger space, and those screens will. So what you're seeing, I think, is what
everybody.
what yeah, is what we all hope, right? What you're seeing is sort of, unfortunately, it's just part of where the technology is at. There will always be a bit of a delay with screens that big, because a screen that big, it's not just like a TV monitor.
Right.
It's many different panels that are all functioning
Right.
together as one. And you see the technology picks it, the cameras pick it up, they have to convert it to a signal, they have to send the signal to many different monitors that all interpret that info. It is so difficult. Sadly, like, the technology isn't there yet. It's so difficult to reduce that delay. Like, even in Broadway pits. So like I play in Broadway pits, and I play in a show right now. The show's called Heathers. Go see it if you get a chance. So I play guitar for that. But even on the conductor cam, right? We have a special monitor that is just for cutting out delay, so that we can play when the conductor's ictus goes boom, like that, right? Still, I'm sitting right next to the conductor and the monitors here. If I angle myself so I can see them both, there is a couple milliseconds, just a tiny little delay. And conductors have to train themselves to, like, basically always be ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
Always,
Right. Right.
because of that. Yep.
Did you ever play in a marching band?
Did I ever play in a marching band? I think, gratefully, I never played an instrument that required that. I did play bassoon in middle school, and I think yeah.
So just, the reason I ask is it's kind of a natural from the conversation you're having about delay, because when you're out in a field,
Yeah.
you watch the majorette. That's all you watch, because
Yeah.
if you think you're going to listen to what's being played, you're mistaken.
Yeah, that's it. It's an interesting point, though. I mean, it's always like that. How do you cope with the delay? I think it bothers some people more than others. It definitely bothers me, and especially because it's so much bigger on the screen.
The intimacy of church.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, hopefully my only hope is that the technology improves over time, that we get better at cutting that delay down. But right now, I think it's literally the lowest that it could possibly be with that size of screen. And if you're like Linda was saying, if you're far away, if you're in a megachurch, if you're Willow Creek, right, you're in the back rows, that monitor is going to be right on time with what you're hearing.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the hope, is that we can get big enough to where you won't even notice it. Yeah. An interesting question. Yeah. One that I'm sure Rich loves answering. As you know, he's a big tech guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yeah. I think think if there's nothing else, we can say our goodbyes here. It's been really great having you guys. This has been really fun. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being engaging and asking questions. And it's given me stuff to think about. I hope it's given you stuff to think about and take home. Yeah. Cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have one
question?
more question.
Yeah.
Where do you get the music for your contemporary services? I mean, what, because we don't use that sort of music.
Yeah.
We use like Sing the Faith, the
Sure.
praise.
Yeah.
But we are also a bunch of sight readers. So we don't know anything. We walk in and we read it and it goes.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, but so where, because the things you were doing yesterday, I had never heard before.
We have a one license. One license. Are you familiar with it?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, it's a service that basically has all these resources where you can you go online and there's all these like PDFs that you can get a hold. And Rich, if you have any more questions about that specifically, Rich can help you with where to find the stuff. But there are PDFs in multiple keys. Basically, as soon as Elevation or Bethel Worship or any of the many groups releases a song, like it's almost immediately the sheet music is available online. Like it's clear, like they are there's somebody who is like at the ready to just transcribe everything. So there's charts for all this stuff. There's charts in multiple keys. Oftentimes there are charts that have like a choral part, like a background, like a SATB version. Usually we're just using lead sheets, and then what I'm doing is before we go in throughout the week, I listen to the songs. I mark up the lead sheets to reflect what I'm going to play and what I'm going to need to tell the band to play. So we all do a little bit of homework beforehand because it's just a lead sheet. It's just a melody with chords. Right. So to make it really sound good, you have to mark it up and say, like, do this kind of stuff ahead of time. But yeah, they do have more involved charts, I think.
So basically you're doing what jazz players do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, that's a big part of, I think what makes our band good is that, like, they're all familiar with doing this sort of thing. They bringing in musicians that have worked with different styles. A lot of different styles is invaluable to our sound, and to making it good. You need adaptable musicians. You need people who can play. We also use a click track. So there's a click track as part of the one license, what we're hearing in our in-ears.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have in-ear monitors, so we hear the click. They make click tracks even that if you're using the lead sheet and the form of the lead sheet, they make click tracks that will tell you when the chorus is happening. They'll tell you when the verse is happening. They'll tell you, where we don't use that because we make our own. Sometimes we make our own form. Sometimes we make our own choruses, and or we'll repeat sections that the recording doesn't do. So we don't use. We just use a basic click track. But yeah, you can find all that stuff online. There's a lot of resources for it.
Okay.
Yeah, they even make click tracks that are synced up with like backing tracks. So you can actually use some of the backing tracks, like if there's if a song has like synth in it, for instance, like a sort of like an atmospheric kind of sound that you want to be in the song. if it's paired up, if you have the right technology for it, if it's paired up with your click, you can play that, and that will play along with you while you're playing. So, yeah, it's technology is for this kind of thing has gotten really, really wild, but extremely helpful.
It's kind of interesting. It's gonna drive me crazy. It's kind of interesting because, I mean, this is a very crude way to put it, but you know, there's a lot of money in pop music and less in Broadway. But then there's kind of that much in church music. So, you know, all of these things have come out of the pop world. So they're kind of like filtering down into worship, but they could never have started in worship because we didn't have the money to throw into it all. You know, maybe a mega church, but I mean, things were happening before mega churches. So,
well, Rich has a very interesting take on all this stuff too, because Rich, basically, you know, he started with, I mean, even when I started here, which was years after he had began the Crossroads Band. When I started here, the technology that they were using was significantly less expensive and less, you know, extreme. Sophisticated, yeah. It was, you know, it was much more bare bones. I mean, we're using right now the old sound system that, you know, it actually sounds okay, but this is updated even from when I started. So in 2021, every time I would come in, there would be something different. Something new, something changed. There's like every Sunday, you know, and it was small things, little things, like now we have 2 guitar stands instead of 1 guitar stand. Now we have a microphone stand that also has an iPad stand, iPad holder. So I don't need to use a music stand, right? There would be an extender for the board, so there's more connections or something. He could make more connections. So every Sunday there was just little things that he would add to. And it wasn't huge purchases, you know, it was just little things, you know, $50 here, $100 there, sometimes like $10, $5 to get a little something to like just make everybody's life a little bit easier. And eventually that grew into like, even this sound system is a lot better than it used to be. It's not bad. It really is not bad. And you know, the space, and it also informed his decision on like, you know, what to do for the new space, you know, what to bring in, who to consult, right? Because we did have a professional audio team to consult for this new space. We had an acoustician that helped design the space. You know, like, and that all came out of the experience of having done it the old way and it not really going so well, and figuring out what the problems were, you know. But yeah, Rich can tell you all about all about the tech stuff. It's cool to see, you know, him go through the many changes of that stuff. Yeah.
What kind of organ do you have here?
That is a Reuter pipe organ. And Reuter, since we've commissioned it, has gone out of business, I believe. I think this was their last organ. The owner of Reuter went into retirement. The organ budget that I kind of stumbled into when I started working here was pretty small in comparison to what usually, because they had just refurbished and brought in this, like, all these new pipes for the organ that had burned down, right? So that was a big, beautiful organ that they spent all this money on, and like, Yeah, so the budget was comparatively small, which was about 250,000, which most organ builders will tell you that ain't enough. We can get you a little portatif organ, like this tiny little thing that, but I managed to, I did a lot of research. I talked to a lot of people. I talked to my friends in Chicago, my old organ teacher in Chicago, who put me in touch with another guy in Chicago, who put me in touch with Reuter. And Reuter, what they specialize in is, and I'm sure there are other organ builders that do this, but they specialize in basically finding their old pipe organs and in churches that have closed and buying them back. So then they can refurbish them and make them, into new organs. And that's basically what this is. It's a combination of two of their old organs and new pipes. So it's sort of like a Frankenstein's monster of three different organs. And it was only, I think it ended up being 250,000 at the end of the day, after all was said and done, even installed and everything. Which, yeah, we got a very, very good deal on that. So you can find them; they're out there. You just have to like really do a lot of digging and research. But usually, like a new organ like this would be upwards of $1 million, maybe more. Yeah.
Have you heard the organ at Trinity in New York?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I haven't heard it. Is it wonderful?
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, there's some really, really nice organs. The other thing about this one is like we wanted to find something that like fit, that really worked with the space. Because the acoustician also worked with the organ builder on this. Like he said, like, this many pipes will be good for the sound. Going more than that, like trying to go all out and having like pipes in different, it's not for this space. Yeah. This space is resonant. It's, we don't have carpets. We don't it's not cluttered with stuff. It's big and open. There's a lot of presence. Once you hear it, organo plano, full stops, like it's loud. Yep. It puts out a lot of sound. And there's only 2 manuals, Yeah, we only have, there's swell, a grate, and the pedals. That's it. Yeah, it's, I think, 1,200 pipes, something like that. 12 or 1,300 pipes. Relatively small. A cathedral could have 2,200 pipes, and be good. Yeah. So yeah, that's our organ. I think that is our time for now. I've got to get to rehearse with the singer, who we're gonna play, and then. But once again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for all your questions. Yeah, I love answering this stuff. I love talking about it. I'm such a nerd.
All musicians are nerds.
Thank